Hi, Hokies. I'm Tech Sideline founder Will Stewart. Welcome into episode 241 of the Tech Sideline podcast, where we're going to talk about Virginia Tech baseball's super regional against Oklahoma. And in the back half, we'll discuss the top stories of the year in Virginia Tech athletics. It's all coming up next on the Tech Sideline podcast. Hello again. This should be an interesting episode and a fun episode once we get past the baseball losing part. So let's talk about who's here and then we'll get rolling. So you ready, guys? We're going to do more fun intros. All right. So I think these are pretty good. So across the way, the man who thought he would be going to Omaha, but now he just has to stay home, brah. Tech Sideline Managing Editor David Cunningham. To my right in the red shirt chair, the man whose voicemail says, "Hello, this is Chris. I can't take your call right now because I'm at the gym." Lead editor columnist Chris Coleman. I botched that. Sorry about that.
You did.
In the fourth chair today, no one. It's a sad and lonely chair. We miss Katie. Producing today's podcast, the man who was really cute as a baby, but now needs to shower and brush his teeth just to be presentable, just like the rest of us, Malcolm Stewart. And his trusty sidekick on podcast production today. Last week we asked, what can Brown do for you? And this week the answer is learn to produce the podcast, VT SMA student Nick Brown. So why is Nick learning to produce the podcast if we already have a full-time podcast producer? Because we no longer have a full-time podcast producer. Malcolm is moving on. He's flying the coop. Got offered and accepted a job down in Raleigh, North Carolina. Name of the company is SoCal. Is that how it's pronounced? SOKAL. Don't go to SOKAL.com. It's not like it's a porn site or anything. Just don't go there. Malcolm's new company is at Go SoCal. So it's GOSOKAL.com. And let's see. They bill themselves as an automotive digital advertising agency based in Raleigh, North Carolina. So looks like a great opportunity for Malcolm. It's a company with like 150 employees. Technology coordinator, is that the job title?
Nice.
Yeah. It looks like
Congratulations.
Yeah, it looks like a good company to work for. So we're proud, and that starts soon. I think it's June 27th. Yeah, so he's out of here soon. So
Do you have a place yet down there?
No. Yeah, that's going to have to happen fast. But it's not like Blacksburg. Apparently they have places open.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Pretty
A lot
fast.
of them, yeah.
So that's why we're training Nick, and we're going to train some other students as well. So Malcolm was so good, we're going to have to replace him with an army. So. Let's see what else we got. Other housekeeping. Excited to announce we got 2 new sponsors coming on board, and this is for the website, not specifically for the podcast. So one of them is Wedgwood Marketing in Charlotte, North Carolina, and this is actually a freebie. Their sponsorship contract doesn't include podcast sponsorship, so for me to mention them on the podcast is a little bit extra. And the big time sponsor coming, and these are both coming on board in August. The other one is First Bank and Trust Company. And this is a first for us. They're going to be our presenting sponsor. So starting in August, you're going to see the language Tech Sideline presented by First Bank and Trust Company. So very cool. And I think there's probably something else I'm forgetting to mention. Maybe my shirt. If you're watching on video, you like the shirt?
I do like it.
I was going through my closet this morning. So like I'm a writer by nature. And this thing of being on the podcast and having to find clothes and having to sit properly and all that stuff, it's fatiguing for a guy like me. But anyway, I forgot this shirt. It's way down at the end of the closet, so I pulled it out. So
It's got guitars and palm trees on it. It's your Virginia Tech Jimmy Buffett shirt.
So when we were on vacation, my wife put on Pandora's beach music station. Every 4th song is Jimmy Buffett, and every 5th song is Kenny Chesney. And there's some Uncle Cracker and that kind of thing thrown in there also. All right, enough of that. Let's get down to it. So first we want to talk about baseball. I was, like everybody else, I was disappointed. I wasn't surprised Tech lost Friday because they were facing a lefty, and I thought that was Oklahoma's best chance to win a game. I was not surprised Tech won Saturday. I was very surprised. I was surprised they got blown out on Sunday, and that.
Well, for Virginia Tech to only have 2 hits, it's always going to be a surprise.
Yeah, and it's just disappointing because the softball team and the baseball team lost their super regional championships by a combined score of 23-2.
Yeah.
And that's a gut punch. So, David, you were in the press box this weekend. Is that your first time in the press box for baseball this year?
No, I filled in and covered the longest game. Oh, the second longest game of the year, back in mid-March, mid-April, somewhere around there.
Was it long because of innings or rain delays?
Oh no, it was just like 1,000 pitching changes. It was
million runs.
It was Tech played VMI.
So it was a middle of the week game.
It was Tech played 2 midweek games that week. This was Chris had the flu, Hirons did, and I filled in and covered. Tech played 2 midweek games back-to-back days, home against VMI, at Radford the next day. And they were 2 of the longest games of the year because there were like a gazillion pitching changes.
So let's not bury the lead. Radford actually played Tech in a sport
And
without backing out
Tech,
of it?
That's the longest game of the season, like 4.5 hours.
Interesting.
But
all right. So anyway, what did you think of the weekend against Oklahoma? That's a broad question, but what are your thoughts?
I thought it was, first of all, great showing from the fans.
Yeah.
The tailgating, you guys were tailgating. I mean, pulling into the cage, the duck pond lot, and just seeing, obviously that's where everybody parks for baseball, period. So there's always going to be a good amount of cars there. But just to see the crowd like walking up to the game on Sunday, there's like a line halfway down the street. The fans really came out and supported, as they did for softball. It was a really good showing. I thought I was surprised, but not really surprised the way that Friday's game went. Like you said, it was Oklahoma's ace, a lefty, and then they put in the reliever, absolute stud. Tech couldn't hit him. And that was, Tech fell behind really, really early. Saturday, Tech did what everybody expected Tech to do, go out and score a ton of runs.
Yep.
And then Sunday, Cade Horton, Oklahoma pitcher, I think a lot of people, like I saw your tweet about the ERA, and I know some people were like,
Twitter corrected me nicely,
but to be fair, he didn't pitch well, for most of the year.
Yeah.
And then
so we're talking a freshman who came in with like a 6.0 ERA.
And then his last 3 starts, he's thrown at least 5 or 6 innings every single time and gotten at least 8 strikeouts and allowed no more than 2 runs every single game. He's peaking this year, and he just absolutely dominated. And it was weird because it's a game like Chris said, you expect Virginia Tech to score runs. I think the thing that surprised me the most for the entire weekend was Tech starting pitching. Just, this is a core that Tech relied on all year, and because a guy like Drew Hackenberg is a true freshman and is throwing 100 innings as opposed to the 40 or something he threw in high school. Same with Griffin Green, who was a reliever, a midweek guy last year. He's thrown over 100 innings. He only probably threw 50 maybe last year.
So let me jump in here and give the stats on the starting pitching, because I wrote this stuff down. So and I'm also going to give them on Oklahoma to kind of draw the contrast. So Virginia Tech starting pitchers pitched 6.2 innings, 6 2/3 innings, gave up 10 earned runs. That's a 13.5 ERA. So they didn't get much out of the starting pitchers at all. Oklahoma's starting pitchers pitched, and this includes the guy on Saturday who didn't have a good day, 16.2 innings, 16 2/3 innings, 8 earned runs. That's a 4.3 ERA. Not bad against Virginia Tech. The Friday starter for Oklahoma threw 103 pitches. The Sunday starter threw 95. So before I toss it over to Chris, I wanted to ask you guys a question. I don't watch a lot of college baseball. You don't often see college pitchers get up to 100 pitches, do you?
Yes.
Do you?
It's only until they go pro when they start getting their pitch counts limited.
Okay.
They will throw them into the ground in college.
Yeah. Okay, all right then.
Yeah.
It obviously depends on what weapons are behind
Correct.
them in the bullpen. And I think Oklahoma's starters were much better than the rest of the bullpen.
Hitting is better than pitching at the college level. There's
Yes.
more hitting than pitching. So there's not that many good pitchers in college. So if you have a good one, you're going to
And he's having a good game.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, you're going to leave him in there.
You-
It's not like when he gets drafted and you're like, okay, his first year, his pitch count is 60 in single A or something like that.
You're going to ride with the hot hand. if it's
Yeah,
hot.
yeah, exactly. That's really the story of the weekend is the pitching for both teams. Although Virginia Tech statistically was better all season, going into the series they were trending in opposite directions. And I didn't know this until Saturday after the game, but Griffin Green is hurt, and in hindsight should not have pitched on Friday. Shep says it's a blister, and I believe him, but there's also actual damage to the finger. And they've tried to give him painkillers, I guess in the form of a shot.
Shooting up, yeah.
All it did is numb his hand, and he couldn't feel the ball.
Yeah.
So I guess that's probably what caused the blister, in all honesty. He's in pain, and then he can't feel the ball, so you're trying to change your grip to compensate for the pain, and you end up rubbing a blister on a different part of your finger.
Interesting.
So he went 1 inning on Friday night and gave up 3 runs, and just like that, Virginia Tech was down 3-0. They lost that game 5-4. The bullpen pitched great that night. So in hindsight, considering everything we know now, I guarantee you Chef would throw a bullpen game on Friday night if he had it to do all over again. And maybe you win that game and then you win the series.
You could have started a guy like Ryan Metz, who started
Yeah, that was gonna
the
be my
Sunday game
question. Is that-
previously.
is that-
Yeah, I mean,
start,
it probably would have been somebody like Ryan Metz, or I mean, he's probably like your fourth option,
Right.
if you were going to go there.
So
but just like you said, the differences in pitching, just that's so unlike Virginia Tech, the starters who were rock solid all year.
They're why Tech hosted a super regional.
Yeah, Drew Hackenberg, true freshman, ACC's ERA leader.
Yeah.
Went 10-1 during the regular season.
Yeah, first Tech pitcher with 10 wins since 2013. And at some point, I think all the Tech pitching just kind of hit a wall, the starting pitching. And then because of that, and John Sheff was asked about this after the game and kind of was like, yeah, a little bit. Because Virginia Tech had to go to the bullpen so early in every single game against Oklahoma. When the Hokies had to go to the bullpen on Sunday, it was just,
It just
there
didn't
wasn't
work.
much left.
There wasn't much left. Hackenberg, if you think about it, like you said, first time over 100 innings, probably threw about 40 innings last year. And the year before that, he basically threw no innings because baseball was shut down due to COVID. Every level of baseball, except for the major leagues, even the minor leagues, was shut down.
Yeah.
So this is a guy who literally hit the proverbial freshman wall. And, there's a reason, professional teams, they put pitch counts on their younger pitchers. And, from a health standpoint, but also from a mental standpoint. At some point, you're just kind of going to run out of gas if you're not used to throwing that many pitches over the course of a season. And I think that's all that happened to him. I think he just hit the wall. He threw over twice as many innings as he had ever thrown before, and that was it. So, meanwhile, you compare Cade Horton, how he was handled for Oklahoma this year. He started some games, came out of the pen for some games. If you look at him early in the season, he had a higher ERA, but he wasn't pitching like 6 or 7 innings a game either.
And
He was
giving up
pitching
50
like
runs,
he
right?
was pitching like 3 innings, and you give up a 3-run bomb that kills your ERA, right?
Yeah.
So they slowly built his innings up throughout the course of the year, where Hackenberg was full speed ahead the whole time as far as innings goes.
Yeah,
I think I'm not saying that was a wrong thing to do, because without
what Tech had to do.
Hackenberg, you're not hosting super regionals probably.
Yeah.
So
I think overall the way Virginia Tech handled the pitching this year, I mean, I don't think there was really any other way to handle it, because who else is going to start if not Hackenberg?
Right.
I think in Oklahoma's case, Oklahoma had a couple veteran guys who they kind of were like, okay, we'll start them until the other guys are ready. I think that's kind of the way Skip Johnson and the Sooners approached that. Is it the right way, the wrong way? I mean, I think, either whether Virginia Tech's pitching was going to be good or not on Sunday, it didn't really matter, because the bats
they weren't there.
weren't good either.
Exactly.
They were non-existent. So Oklahoma, a really good team, they played a really good weekend, deserved to win. I mean, and obviously disappointing because you and I we had talked about sending me to Omaha.
We had conversations about how we're going to do that.
Yeah. And, I write Sunday off to one of those days. I mean, it's going to be rare that Virginia Tech gets 2 hits in a game, no matter who they're facing.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that freshman pitcher, Horton, he's really been coming on lately for Oklahoma, but at the same time, Virginia Tech torched better pitchers than him.
They're a top 10 hitting team in the country.
It's just one of those days, and it happened to be on
when you needed
on
them
an
most.
elimination day.
Yeah.
To me, like the series was probably lost on Friday. Like I said, in hindsight,
a one run game on Friday in a game where your starting pitcher went an inning.
Yeah, right. In hindsight, you don't throw Green because he just can't pitch effectively with his finger issue, and also probably the most disappointing part was you're facing a lefty, so you're thinking, oh man, our left-handed hitters might struggle tonight because this is a really good lefty. Well, Tech got 2 2-run homers from left-handed hitters.
Yeah.
And their right-handed hitters didn't do anything. So you really needed your right-handed hitters to come through on Friday night, and they did not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think as more time goes by, I think about it the same way. It's not the Saturday or Sunday game I look at. It's actually the Friday game. And I was like, because it's the only one that was close.
Right.
And that's what you start second-guessing. Anytime you lose, like you're not second-guessing losing 11-2. You got hammered. But
I was sitting at PK's one night, and this guy I know who apparently talked to Brad Klontz one time. I don't know Brad too, but I've never asked him this. And he says Brad Klontz told him, man, I'd rather lose 10-0 than 2-1.
Yeah. Because
sometimes that just happens to you in baseball. It happens. You get blown out. But if you lose 2-1, you're going to be up all night second guessing. What could I have done differently?
Yeah. I think it's also important to point out that this was Virginia Tech's first series loss at home this year.
Well, it's their first series loss since March in general.
Yeah, that too. That's the first time Tech had lost a series since Georgia Tech. which was the ACC men's basketball tournament weekend.
That's right.
To give you an idea,
of how long
that was a long
was.
time ago.
Yeah. So disappointing weekend from that standpoint, but I also want to point out that this isn't like the basketball playoffs in the NBA or college football where the high seed always advances. I mean, everybody knows the curse of the number 1 seed in the NCAA baseball tournament. I mean, Tennessee far and away was the best team in the country this year, statistically, analytically, however you want to slice it. And they got knocked out by Notre Dame at home.
Yeah.
And I was looking up the numbers, and only 52% of number 4 overall seeds progressed past the super regionals. So it was basically going into the whole thing.
Only 52% of the top 4 seed.
No, the 4 seed.
Right. The 4 seed. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So the seed that Virginia Tech was.
Okay.
Only 52% of the 4 seeds make the College World Series. 48% get knocked out in the super regionals. Those stats were before this tournament. So now it's 50-50 basically. So it's basically Tech went into the postseason with a 50-50 chance of making it to Oklahoma. Yeah. So
well, I was going to say, I think it's interesting to look because I believe in the College World Series field, I believe there are only 2 or 3 teams that were seeded. And it wasn't just a Virginia Tech thing. It was across the board. Unseeded teams, and it's baseball. It's kind of random.
Well, I mean, you
times.
see it in there's a reason in Major League Baseball 9 different teams have won the World Series in the last 9 years.
Yeah.
When you go to the playoffs, everybody's a really good baseball team, and you know how baseball is. I mean, you can lose 6 games in a row and then you win 13 games in a row.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, the Braves had the worst record last year of all playoff teams. Won the World Series. Right? That's just the way the sport is.
Yeah, it's very random.
Yeah, right.
So I think you are correct. I can't get my phone to behave. The last I looked, it was before they had all 8 teams had filled out the bracket for the College World Series. But there were six or 7 teams, and only I think 2 of them were seeded teams. The rest of them were unseeded. Which
again, that's baseball. Baseball is very random, and Tennessee and Virginia Tech, 2 of the best bats in the country.
Oh yeah,
went out.
Make it out of super
I mean,
regionals.
just from a statistical standpoint, Tennessee was the best team in the country, and Virginia Tech was one of probably 2 or 3 teams that you can make an argument for being the second best team in the country. And I still feel that way with a healthy pitching staff and a Hackenberg that hadn't hit the wall. I mean, I feel like peak Virginia Tech this year may have been the second best team in the country.
Yeah.
But that's just the nature of the
the
sport.
the good news is I think it's up from here.
Yeah, so let's close the door on that and talk about the future a little bit. I do want to get to the top stories of the year in general. So I've got 4 notes. English Field did great. Tech fans, unlike the 2013 regional, Tech fans filled the place for all 3
Stayed
games
the whole time. Yep.
and I didn't hear any complaining about concession lines or bathrooms or
Oh,
anything.
I thought they were all great.
Yeah, it looked like everything went really well.
Yeah.
So the program has set the bar high because there's a lot of fans that really weren't paying attention to baseball now, and now they are. And what Tech did this year is what they're going to want next year and the year after. And so expectations are up. What are future prospects looking like, and will fans stay engaged beyond this year? But I also have that question for softball as well. Early in the year, softball, despite almost making the College World Series last year, you look at their attendance for early games this year, it was 300 fans, 400 fans. Baseball's attendance, understandably so, it wasn't great at the beginning of the year. So I'm just wondering if this is going to carry over and there's going to be more interest in both those sports.
I think what's done a great job. I'm not as knowledgeable about softball. That's a better question for a guy like Chip. But I think he's done a great job supporting the baseball program fiscally. He's hired excellent coaches. Their facilities are very good. The stadium's brand new. They've broken ground on that pitching lab, which was that pile of dirt you saw outside
Out
the
in
left field wild over the
a
weekend.
pitching lab.
Yeah,
Like Virginia Tech's pitching can get better.
right. So you can sit here and I think Virginia Tech has done all they can do from an administrative standpoint. There's nothing they can do about the weather.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. When you're playing games in February and early
not
March,
just those months. 2 days after the spring game, which was on April 16th.
That's true.
So April 18th, it was freezing cold and snowing in Blacksburg.
That's when NC State was here. Is that right?
I don't remember.
No, not NC State.
Miami was here.
That was the Miami weekend. It was perfect weather.
Perfect weather until Monday.
And then Tech had to play 1 or 2 midweek games.
Right. And it was awful.
And it just awful weather.
Yeah. So there's nothing you can do about that.
Yeah.
And that's just Blacksburg in the spring. So that affects things to a certain extent. Now, that being said, I do think, walking in and out of the stadium this weekend, you hear people talking and they're like, oh, this is my first baseball game since they rebuilt the stadium.
Yeah.
And I know everybody there over the last couple of weeks had a good experience. So, yes, if the weather's good, I do think attendance will increase. At least
especially if the team is performing well. Right. I think same thing with softball. Now, it's tough because you also got to think there are so many games for baseball and so many games for softball. It's a bit different than, say, basketball, where basketball, Virginia Tech is playing Virginia at home.
Once.
You got one chance to come see that game this year. Mm-hmm. Baseball, softball, it's a 3-game series.
Baseball, you got 30 to 35 chances to see the team play. And that's why, in the majors, it's like you put 60,000 people in an NFL stadium and attendance of 30,000 is considered good in Major League Baseball because you've got 81 chances to see them play.
Yeah. Right. And you just look at this past weekend, 3 games in 3 days. We tailgated every day. The games went 3 to 4 hours. It's like 3 football games in a row, and that's a big commitment.
Yeah.
And I'm not even coming in from out of town. Some of the stories I heard on Sunday, people saying stuff like, oh, yeah, when they won that Saturday game, I looked at my dad and said, let's get in the car. Like 8-hour drives to come see that Sunday
there was
game.
One guy on our boards, his brother played for Tech in the 2013 team. When Tech won on Saturday, he immediately booked a flight from Texas, I believe, and flew into town for the game.
Yeah,
and he got treated to an 11-2 or whatever the final score was.
Yeah, but he put up a good post on the board afterwards, and he's absolutely right. Things have changed so much since that 2013 team.
Yeah.
And Tech is just in a much better position to actually capitalize on their success this year. Yeah. Because, that team, the program wasn't well funded back then. The stadium was... There are high school stadiums in this state that were better than Old English
They had
Field.
to bring in trailers to do the press box.
Exactly. It was bad because I was in the press box for them, and it was not a good look.
Yeah.
The program is better supported financially. The program is and if you remember, Virginia Tech lost their coach immediately after that season to Oklahoma.
Do not think
So,
that's going to happen.
Right. I mean, yeah, Chef's being supported really, really well. They're building him a brand new hitting facility.
Pitching facility.
Pitching facility. The stadium is modern. It's a better experience to go to a baseball game these days.
And the fans are supporting them.
We have an athletic director who played college baseball and whose dad was a long time college baseball coach. I mean, he knows baseball. So, I'm not saying they're going to host super regionals again next year, because they're probably not, because they lose a big chunk of their lineup.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the program is on much more stable ground. The foundation is much, much stronger than it was the last time Tech had a good team.
Yeah. Final thoughts, David? Keep it short.
No, I
got to
think,
move on.
Yeah, I think in general, it's only up from here. I was actually asked about it in one of the radio interviews I did the other day. For both baseball and softball, you lose so many key pieces. Does the program drop? What happens? Yeah, I mean, it's obviously hard when you had two teams, both of them, that were top 4 teams in the country. That's how good they were. There's not many more places to go than down. But yes, Virginia Tech baseball is going to lose Gavin Cross, Tanner Schobel, Nick Biddison, Cade Hunter, potentially some other guys to the major league draft. However, John Sheff has proven that, 1, he can get good talent out of the transfer portal, 2, that he can develop good talent, recruits, and 3, like Chris just said, he's got all the facilities, all the funding, all the backing that it takes to reach the point that he just got this year. I don't see why, again, I'm not saying Virginia Tech is going to, be another top 4 team next year, because they're losing a ton of pieces. But this is this is not just going to be a one-off thing. This is a Virginia Tech program, baseball and softball, that are that will be in this position for many years.
We're not going to be sitting here 10 years from now saying, "Oh my God, I can't believe it's been 10 years since we made the NCAA tournament."
Yeah, this is a Virginia Tech team that you would now expect. Like, they're not going to be picked dead last in the Atlantic Coast Conference Coastal Division next year.
That's right. Yeah.
They're not going to be picked dead last in the Coastal, because they've proven that they're a good program. And I think that just goes to show you, one, the job that John Sheff has done in 5 years.
Okay, remember I told you to keep it short.
Yeah.
Sorry to cut you off, but I do want to set the table for the next discussion, which I think will be on this for
a long time.
A long time, yeah. I wrestled with whether or not to do an end of the year podcast and kind of group it with baseball, but in the end I decided to do that. So let's get started. So I put out a tweet yesterday and I said, give me nominees for Hokies Athletics Story of the Year. That was my request, and then I listed 5 things, and unfortunately I numbered them, so people thought I was saying these are my top 5. I don't know why I did that. So a bunch of people started disagreeing with how I rank things. That wasn't my request. My request was, give me some stories of the year. So I'm going to run through the list, and then I think we'll go ahead and take our short break, and then we'll come back and we'll wear this topic out. So I listed the firing of Justin Fuente and the hiring of Brent Pry, men's basketball winning the ACC tournament, softball making super regionals, baseball making super regionals. I left out women's basketball also, doing well in the ACC tournament, not winning it, but going to the NCAA tournament, and Liz Kitley being named ACC Player of the Year. The last one I listed was NIL and its effects on college athletics. And when I asked people to add other things, some of them, instead of arguing with how I'd quote-unquote rank things, did actually make suggestions. We've also got on the list Mekhi Lewis making his comeback from a season-ending injury to make the national final and very nearly winning his second. Virginia Tech, as an overall athletics program, they're currently, after the winter sports, they were ranked 19th in the country in the Directors' Cup, and that would be an all-time high if they were to close that out. Women's basketball success, 2 track athletes winning national championships in their respective events, and the Drive for 25 reaching its goal of 25,000 members. So that's the setup, and that's what we'll go through. We'll go through all those when we come back after the break. All right, so welcome back into the Tech Sideline Podcast. We're going to spend probably what will wind up being somewhere between half an hour and an hour. I'm betting closer to an hour, talking about the biggest stories and events in tech athletics in this past year now that the athletic year and the academic year are over. So let's begin with the overview, the kind of the 50,000-foot view. After winter sports, Virginia Tech was ranked 19th in the Directors' Cup standings. And so historical perspective, that was fourth. First of all, that was fourth in the ACC, which is pretty nice. Virginia Tech's top finish was number 28 in 2017-2018, or 21st just last year, the COVID year. I would kind of rather talk about it in terms of a full year where everybody's participating in athletics fully. So, David, it was interesting in doing my research. The first article you ever wrote for us was reporting that Virginia Tech was 21st in the Directors' Cup standings.
No, that was 30. That was.
So I'm mixing my
32.
years up. Right.
Yeah. So Tech finished 21st in the COVID year, 32nd in the year since.
See, my notes are wrong. My notes say the COVID year was 2020, 2021. It was actually 2019, 2020.
Technically, yes.
When all
There were no spring sports.
Yeah, all
that
the
year.
spring sports
Yes.
got wiped out.
Yeah.
So my mistake. Last year,
Tech finished, so 2020, 2021, Tech finished 32nd.
Right.
I believe it was second highest finish ever.
correct. Yeah. And you listed in your article like all the finishes all the way
Yeah.
back to 2004, 2005. So we know where we are now. And in the spring, do you recall off top of your head, Dave, what sports are played in the spring? Clearly softball and baseball, and they both did great.
And there's outdoor track.
There's outdoor track, and I think Tech did.
Tech's fared fine.
Yeah. But I also think women's golf is done in the spring. And didn't they make the NCAA?
Yeah.
Yeah, Nick knows this. So women's golf did make the NCAA.
Yeah, so it's the seventh season of the program.
You're right, seventh season of the program. Made the regional 5 years in a row. Now they did not advance beyond the regional, right? But
But they'll still get points for it.
yeah, because Tech
And
got
they had someone go to the national championship.
yeah, and I saw that. So they did send one golfer. I can't remember her name. Do you remember her name?
Emily Mahar.
Emily Mahar. So she went and competed in the nationals. So women's golf held up their part of the deal, which was an important part of spring performance last year. So I'm thinking that Tech's going to finish. Go ahead, Dave.
Lacrosse is one of the ones. Lacrosse is one of the ones that's involved as well. And Tech lacrosse was okay.
Yeah,
But they didn't
they
make
did,
the tournament, so they didn't get
No.
any points.
yeah,
Right.
but they didn't last year either, right?
Yeah.
You're right. Right.
So my point is, I think Tech's going to get actually more points in the spring this year.
Oh,
than
no,
they
absolutely.
did last year
Because of baseball.
because of baseball.
Softball's going to get the same amount of points they did last year. Women's golf's going to get the same amount of points they did last year. Baseball is going to go from 0 points to however many points you get for making super regionals.
Yeah. So to give you some perspective, so I have up I listed a full list of each program with its place, with its national ranking and total points. This was last year. The two highest were softball and men's soccer. They both finished 9th, and they both got 64 points. Well, obviously this year, baseball will also be up there.
They'll also finish 9th.
right?
Yeah.
Because
Because
the
that's
top
how they
8,
do it, right?
the top
I
eight
didn't even
were
list
gonna-
baseball last year
Right.
because
Because they didn't get any points.
because they
Yeah, you only get points if you make the NCAA tournament or football if you make a bowl game.
yeah.
Yeah.
So men's basketball was like 33rd. You know,
So yeah,
it'll still be
They
around.
got
it'll,
knocked out in the round of 64.
it'll still be around there.
Men's basketball will be the same amount of
Yeah.
points. Yeah.
But
So
it'll.
point being, I think they'll break that. I think they'll easily beat
Oh
that
yeah,
28th place.
no
No
question, because it'll be essentially the same list. Like wrestling finished 15th last year. I believe wrestling finished 9th,
I think they were 8th this year.
8th or 9th.
Yeah, Nick says 8th.
Nick says 8. So 8. So that's a big jump. Wrestling will probably be one of the higher sports on the list.
So how many points do you get for finishing 9th?
64.
64.
But I
So-
think wrestling was in the winter rankings, so I think they've already
they've already been counted.
Yeah, but
based
my
on
point was just like across the board,
Yeah.
like a lot of the teams are either doing the same or better, than
Right.
last year.
Correct. Right.
Yeah.
That's outstanding.
Right. So basically, you had 64 points to Tech's point total after the spring,
Yeah.
plus whatever the track programs did, the women's golf program did.
Yeah.
They did. They're going to earn about the same amount they did last year, but big jump for baseball, of course. So I don't know how many other spring sports they are that like Virginia Tech doesn't play. Like, is it rowing season right now? So Virginia Tech's not going to get
It
points
is,
from
actually.
rowing.
Yes.
Like Tech doesn't have men's lacrosse.
Right.
Like,
So obviously a school like Maryland, who won the national title, will get a bunch of points from that. Where
In
Virginia Tech
men's
doesn't
lacrosse,
play.
or
yeah, like Texas has rowing.
So I could sit here and say, oh, because we added these points for baseball, that means we're going to finish 17th or something like that. I don't know that because other teams have
other
teams play
schools.
spring sports that we don't play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but for sure, it's going to be Tech's highest finish ever.
I think Tech. I would say Tech probably has a pretty good chance to finish top 20.
Yeah, I think that's
I think they do.
Like somewhere, I think Tech will probably finish somewhere between 15 and 20, and that is excellent.
Particularly when you consider that when you look at, well, first of all, any program outside the Big Ten or the SEC finishing top 20 is impressive because the budgets just aren't the same.
Yeah.
Big Ten, SEC, or Stanford.
Yes, correct. So I mean, in glancing at Tech's number 19 ranking, I happened to notice that after the winter sports, UVA was somewhere between 30 and 35, I think. I didn't really pay a whole lot of attention. I just saw it as I was looking. And so I think they're going to, and UVA's historically has a really good all-around sports program.
Didn't they win a national title in something recently this spring? Tennis.
Usually.
Yeah, tennis. Yeah,
It was men's
tennis.
tennis.
So they'll pick up a bunch of points from that.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I don't know that they'll catch Tech though, because Tech will get Tech will get points UVA won't get in softball and more in baseball.
Correct. And this would be the first time,
yeah,
pretty much ever, that Tech gets more points than UVA for baseball.
Well, so last year, I'll run through the ACC schools that finished ahead of Virginia Tech last year.
Okay.
Tech finished 7th. Notre Dame is included in this, so out of 15 schools, Tech was literally middle of the pack. North Carolina was 4th. Virginia was 11th. Notre Dame was 14th. Florida State was 16th, so that's 4 top 20 ACC schools.
Mm-hmm.
Duke was 21st, and NC State was 23rd, and then Virginia Tech at 32. And so, like, Tech is probably, you would think, going to be like 4th or 5th probably in the ACC,
something like
which
that.
which is really impressive, all things considered.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is. And so that sounded like, before we went to the break, when you ran off that list of story of the year candidates, right? That was a lot, which makes sense when you consider there was a lot of good things that happened which makes sense when you consider their direct.
That's not even all of them either.
Right.
So looking, to return to the discussion about UVA, Virginia Tech, I believe they clinched the Commonwealth Clash, but I think all the scoring's done because I'm looking at it. Virginia Tech 12.5 points and UVA.
Well, all
8.5
sports is
points.
over now.
Yeah, I'm looking
for
at the
both
list.
teams, so yeah, it's over.
There's nothing blank left on this list.
Yeah.
So
what was the final?
12.5 to 8.5.
Blowout.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to keep looking at my phone during the podcast. I'm not sure what the history of that is. I know when they introduced the Commonwealth Clash at first, UVA tended to win it handily. And so the overall Tech athletic department's making progress. So let's drill. So we had this discussion before we started the podcast. Are we talking about the biggest stories or are we talking about the biggest accomplishments? I don't really have an answer. I do think the biggest story is the firing of Justin Fuente and the hiring of Brent Pry. What do you think? Because you know what the other contender is.
Well, here's the thing. Like, we knew there was a strong chance Justin Fuente was getting fired going into the season.
Yeah.
So to me, that was a story that had been building for months and months, for almost a year, basically. Ever since Whit Babcock had his press conference in December of 2020 to explain why he wasn't firing Justin Fuente then.
Yeah.
You knew it wasn't going to be too much longer, most likely, before it actually did happen. That's what generally happens in those cases. So to me, when it happened, it wasn't even a story. Because I remember when I was down in Atlanta last year for the World Series, I didn't go to the Tech game, but I was down there with Tech people, and they told me, it's already done. It's all it is now is negotiating the buyout between his agent and Virginia Tech, which turned out to be true. It got negotiated down to $8.75 million when it was supposed to be 10.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I knew it was done 2 weeks before it happened. So to me, when it happened, it wasn't even a story. So to me, I mean, as far as the importance of it, yes, football drives the bus and everything like that, right? But here's the thing. From a financial aspect, football is always going to drive the bus whether Virginia Tech goes 12-0 or 0-12, because the vast majority of their revenue comes in through football television money, right?
Yeah. And
so we
ticket sales.
either stink or we're great in football. It's still paying for everything else except for men's basketball, which is self-sustainable. So to me, it's like that's an important story. It's important, and if it probably would be the number one story if Virginia Tech didn't win the ACC
if
in
Virginia
men's
Tech
basketball.
men's basketball didn't go to Brooklyn.
That's
and win.
clearly the number one accomplishment.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And some people are arguing and saying that if Tech baseball had made the College World Series,
I would have said that.
do you think it's a bigger accomplishment than winning the ACC tournament in men's basketball?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's harder.
because baseball is such a crapshoot.
I mean that's making the Elite Eight.
Right.
Yes,
That's making the Elite Eight. Like
Which
that.
we've never done in men's basketball.
and I think Tech fans would be excited if Tech made the College World Series, but I think the basketball championship resonates.
I think from the longevity of the ACC, dating back to the 1950s, and how Virginia Tech spent decades upon decades wanting to get into the league, and they never got into the league. They finally got into the league, and now they finally won the ACC title, and it's something that Virginia Tech fans, particularly the local fans that grew up reading Bill Brill.
I was about to say,
you know,
Bill Brill.
I think
Bad
that-
year to be Bill Brill.
All right, now listen, I know it's been a long time since Virginia Tech fired a football coach and hired a new one, but it has happened before. Right?
Whereas winning the ACC in
This
men's
never
basketball has
happened.
never happened.
Right. So
before.
to me, that's absolutely
Yeah.
to me that's my number one.
Yeah.
Boom.
I think unquestioned number one. I mean that's the thing. Like if softball or baseball had made the College World Series, Women's College World Series, then it's a little bit different because that's
you're
also
having a
something that's never
conversation.
been done
Right,
before.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, the story of the year is like, all right, so everything else on that list is an accomplishment. It's
Except NIL and
right. It's a story and an accomplishment, except for NIL. Whereas Brent Pry getting hired, Justin Fuente getting fired, that's just a story.
Right.
We don't know whether Brent Pry is going to be any good or not.
Yeah.
I'm inclined to think that he will. I don't want to be a negative Nancy, but what I'm saying is we don't know.
We don't know.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
correct.
So I mean, we all thought Justin Fuente was right. Yeah. If you remember, we ran our TSL poll. Fuente was like top 3 on everybody's list, and Brent Pry was dead last this time around for who people wanted. Right? Okay, so I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I like long term, like for the health and monetary, selling tickets for football is important and everything like that, and for the psyche of the fan base. But I do think, at least I hope, I know me personally, I want, if there's anything I've learned this year, is that I can actually be happy with our athletic department when we don't have a good football team.
I think that's an important thing to talk about.
Like I'm not gonna say it's not. I want to be better at football. I want to be good at football again. But at the same time, I'm happy right now.
And there are a lot of Tech fans that will tell you, and we heard this throughout the spring as softball and baseball were doing well, there are still those few that say, I really don't care. All I care about is football. But I found that for me personally, going to the softball games, the regional games, and I got to see the first couple of super regional games. Unfortunately, I was traveling for the last one.
Or
I
fortunately,
didn't say
depending on how
unfortunately. I said and fortunately.
okay.
I was trying, sorry. Let me be clear. I was into that, you know, and I had a ball tailgating.
Yeah.
By the way, I forgot to mention that we tailgated with Billy Ray Mitchell and Pat Finn.
It's a good group. The Sons of Saturday guys.
Yeah, and that was the first time I had spent a lot of time around Billy Ray. And The Billy Ray you see on Twitter and the Billy Ray you hear on the podcast is actual Billy Ray.
Yeah.
That is Billy Ray Mitchell.
Billy Ray knows one speed.
He's just one of those guys, man. Yeah. So it was a lot of fun. And you know, for any of you out there that might think that Sons of Saturday and Tech Sideline are competitors or whatever, that's not the way it is. I had some really interesting conversations with him about the stuff we do and some of the challenges we face. And so we had a lot of fun. So I just wanted to give him a shout out. So that's another thing that had never been done was me tailgating with Billy Ray.
There you go.
So it's just a banner year for
Well, I
Tech
think
athletics.
that across the board, it's a bunch of things that had never really been done before.
Yeah.
And then Virginia Tech did them all at the same time.
Yeah. In the year that we hired David Cunningham. So
That's right. It's the good luck charm.
Yeah,
so actually, we haven't run a TSL poll in a long time. We should run one this afternoon with your list.
I think so.
What's the biggest storyline of Virginia Tech athletics this year?
And I think allowing people to pick like 3 choices amongst all of these will, as opposed to making them pick one.
Right, because there's so many on that list. Well, all the polls I've done, the last 2 football coaching searches have been vote on your top 3 choices for Virginia Tech's next football coach.
It's just crazy thinking. Like I think it's going to be one of those things. You always talked about it. When you never expected baseball and softball to lose this year.
I thought they were going to
because it came so naturally. Check Twitter. Virginia Tech softball won another game.
Yeah.
Virginia Tech baseball won another game, and it just became that way.
Yeah.
Like I think it might take a little bit of time to, I think, really resonate with everybody, like how good of a year this was. Yeah. Like, and it wasn't just the fall or the winter or the spring. It was across the board. Like on the list, you don't even have like Virginia men's and women's soccer. You know, men's soccer knocked off the #1 team in the country back in August. I was there.
Was it Marshall?
It was Marshall. Right? I was there covering that game. Virginia Tech had like 4 or 5 Golden Goal wins in overtime. Both men's and women's soccer went to the NCAA tournament. Men's soccer went to the Sweet 16 again.
I have a blind spot where soccer's concerned. I admit it.
Well, I know you're not a soccer guy, and
I'm just an older guy, and older guys tend not to be soccer guys.
Well, I know this, and this is, speaking of soccer, this isn't even it wasn't even in this academic year, but Tech had the #1 pick in the MLS draft.
Yeah, well, that's Emily Gray, who has
tearing it up.
Written a story on Tech Sideline before. Yep. She was the #3 pick in the NWSL draft this spring. So, like, across the board, just really good success. And then there's like football, and it's funny because it's
Which lost their bowl game 54-10.
Well, it's funny that you mention everybody else having success and a lot of people being okay with it, because I think that's one of those things that like nobody really realized because it's the first time everybody experienced it this year.
Right. And to be fair, like if Virginia Tech had not fired Justin Fuente and we had a lame duck football coach, we wouldn't be as happy right now. We would look at all the stuff. Oh man, it's awesome that we won the ACC in basketball.
But when is Justin Fuente going to be done?
But it's just a distraction. It's a distraction from football.
I think that's fair.
Now it's not really a distraction from football more than it is just like an addition. Okay, we have a fresh start in football, and oh my gosh, now we're good at all these other things too. Yeah. But at the same time, like. We went at the same time. The last time Virginia Tech stepped on a football field, they lost 54-10 in a game that, in my opinion, shouldn't be played. Thanks to all the opt-outs, most of all shouldn't be played these days, in my opinion. But I think I don't know. It's just I'm not gonna say that. I want to be good at football, but I'm very content as a Tech fan.
It is easier to have success in other sports outside of football because of the way the landscape is.
Right.
You're not going to be able to catch an Alabama.
Football is just about
money.
Well, yes, but like the actual sport of football itself is who's bigger, faster, and stronger.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you can play the smart. Virginia Tech can go out there and play the smartest game they could possibly play and have zero turnovers
and still lose.
And they get smoked by Alabama. Yeah. And that's almost everybody.
Yeah.
That's not just Virginia Tech. I mean, football is just it's not just it's more than a contact sport. All those sports are contact sports. Football is a collision sport.
Yeah.
So you're talking about colliding Mack trucks with mid-sized vehicles, basically, is what you're talking
Motorcycles.
about when you're playing Alabama and things like that. It's not that way in baseball and basketball and things like that.
I'm laughing. You ever see that video of the crash test involving the Mercedes-Benz and the smart car?
Yeah.
That's kind of Alabama's the Mercedes-Benz and the smart car is most other programs.
Oh,
Well,
of course.
it's like there's so much parity in everything else not named football.
Yes, it's cheaper to be good at anything else. It's easier to be good at everything else. Now, I can tell you right now that when Virginia Tech played for the national championship in football, I think they finished like 100th in the Directors' Cup.
Right.
Which I think was
way
called
out
the
there.
Sears Trophy back then. And I don't want to say even before
So
then they
David's
were even
scrambling
worse.
to look it up.
Yeah, but I could actually
they didn't have rankings. Well, I did not have it listed in the article.
I've put them in articles before, so they're probably in another
I only
article
included
too,
Tech's ACC rankings.
But the younger me could not have imagined feeling that way then. Like when Virginia Tech was winning a lot of football games, and I'm sitting here thinking, I couldn't have imagined me saying, man, I'd still be happy if we were 6-6 in football, but we were really good in everything else, right? I couldn't have imagined me saying that, but now that it's actually happened,
yeah.
I'm
So here's
happy.
here's an example. What would you guys say is Virginia Tech's best football season since joining the ACC?
the first one.
Just really quick.
Yeah.
Their most talented team was the 2005 team, but the best favorite season 2004. Actually.
2004. Okay.
The only other real candidate is 2010, and it had the disappointment.
Okay, well,
Right, so you're looking at the 2004, 2005 year.
Virginia Tech in 2004, 2005 finished 58th in the Directors' Cup.
Right.
In 2010, 2011 finished 45th. And those were two of the, as you guys said, best football programs since Virginia Tech joined the ACC.
Yeah.
This is, we don't need to, but with this football program, Virginia Tech could potentially have a top 20 finish. That just goes to show you, like, and I think, again, credit to the job what Babcock has done, credit to the coaches he's hired, the culture that these coaches have created. But, like, it's just insane that every single sport, you can go down the list. Men's soccer made the postseason. Women's soccer made the postseason. Men's basketball, women's basketball, softball, baseball, wrestling finished top 10. I mean, women's golf. Across the board, everybody's having success. And it's like, this is what a school like Texas, a school like Stanford is doing.
Is used to, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how much the pitching lab cost. I don't know how much it is. But it's something that could it's going to be a great benefit to the baseball program. There's no more buildings you can build that's going to be a great benefit to the football program. You're better off taking that money and buying a 1,500-yard rusher with NIL.
Yeah.
It's just much different between that sport and the other sport.
I would agree with that.
Yeah,
You can
that's
upgrade
interesting.
in a lot of the other sports. You could upgrade training facilities, and like we're both soccer guys. If Virginia Tech wanted to get a new facility, like say where that turf field is, they want to get a new facility, a new training facility for men's and women's soccer that they shared.
That could really benefit that program.
That would be really beneficial. It doesn't, like football. You might as well just pour the money into the
actual,
NIL.
Your Tech's football facilities and almost all colleges' football facilities these days are better than the NFL facilities.
That's true.
Yeah.
Because you have to have them for recruiting.
Right. So
whereas
So
NFL
if the NFL players can deal with worse facilities than college players deal.
Yeah.
I mean, so like I said, you're better off just plugging that into a 1,500-yard rusher.
Yeah.
Interesting. So let me grab my tweet here, and I don't know. I think we've covered most everything. The thing that I think I shortchanged in my tweet was, and I'm embarrassed to admit this, but I didn't even really think about what Mekhi Lewis had done.
Yeah.
He won the national championship in 2019. COVID shut everything down in 2020.
He was going to take an Olympic red shirt that year anyway.
Yeah.
And then COVID
think you're
ruined
right.
that.
Yes.
Yes.
So he took it in.
He actually did that year.
Right.
Am I Yes. And then last year he got hurt. I thought he was having a pretty good year last year. And he
got hurt late, like right before the ACC tournament.
Yeah, he was dealing with like a nagging thing, and then in the ACC tournament, it was a guy from Pitt that I assume you
hurt him.
Assume you remember that. Yeah,
I remember that.
Really hurt him, and then he was just done.
Yeah, and so it's the fact of the matter is the national championship, that was a long time ago. That was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And he's taken his redshirt year off. He's faced an injury. So to come back and win the ACC in his weight class. And
remember, he went up a weight class.
That's right.
That's right. He went from 165 to 174, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not in my wrestling headspace right now.
Nick says yes.
He went up a weight class and won the ACC, and then went to the national championship.
Yeah, and got really close to winning that.
Yeah.
And so that's a tremendous accomplishment. And of course, he will be back next year. And I think what went on inside my own brain was it was my disappointment that he couldn't close it out and win his second national championship. So I think I kind of put it in the closet and didn't really.
You also have to remember this was the Saturday after Virginia Tech lost in the NCAA tournament in both men's and women's basketball.
Yeah.
Literally like a day or two before. So there was a lot of sadness going on.
Yeah.
It's not a great week.
I don't blame you.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, wanted to give him props for that, and let's go back and look at the list. So baseball, softball, we've worn those out. We've got, let's see, NIL and its effects on college athletics. And
the thing is, like, I don't think that story's been
Written.
It's been started.
Yeah.
We've written a few chapters, but we don't know what's going to happen next. I mean, there's an inquiry into Miami's program now. Now, whether anything comes out of that, we don't know.
No,
but we don't know where all of this is heading.
Yeah.
Is my point. So that's a story, but it's an incomplete story.
I can't remember if I've said this on past podcasts or not, but I just think that as all that stuff was building to a head, and the NCAA allowed NIL to be legal in quotes, they didn't even really allow it. They just abdicated. They just washed their hands of it, and they said, "Fine, be careful what you wish for. You may get it." We've got one rule: you can't use it to recruit, which is utterly ridiculous because that's exactly what's going on.
You can't prove it, right?
Yeah.
There's no way you can prove that it's being used to recruit. But like, you're telling me Jordan Addison moves all the way across the country unless he knows he's getting money. Now, he doesn't sign the NIL contract till after he gets to USC.
Right.
But it's like, it's not like you can,
Yeah.
you can't subpoena these guys' DMs and things like that.
Yeah. It's the beginning.
And it's just like, I'm not sure what the rules are now, and it probably varies from sport to sport, but college athletes weren't allowed to sign with an agent until they were actually going to go pro. That doesn't mean they weren't talking to agents. I don't think they were even allowed to talk to agents. But
Correct.
that was
You know what's so nuts is like the whole, and we could do like an entire podcast just on NIL.
Yeah.
But like, think back to some of like the biggest, you can call them stories regarding college athletes, money stuff. Think about Cam Newton and that whole story where allegedly, Auburn had given his dad some money, whatever. In today's age, doesn't matter.
Yeah, it really doesn't. That's not happening.
Think about it was Ohio State when Jim Tressel was still the head coach.
Yeah.
That whole signing autographs for money. Now, like the way college athletics has evolved, like that used to be a big thing. Oh my God. And people were always just like, come on, they can't sign autographs and make like $25.
They took away Reggie Bush's Heisman, and he broke rules that are legal now. There's no wrong.
Yeah.
So I've had discussions with a couple of NIL companies where we're going to partner with Commonwealth NIL, and then that's not a secret. Commonwealth NIL themselves did a press release about three weeks ago announcing it. We're just trying to get the specifics of our partnership figured out and put into a contract before Tech Sideline actually announces it. So, and I've traded DMs with Brendan Hill, who's involved with Triumph NIL. So I've had discussions with people in the space, and it. So everybody's from the outside looking in, calling it the Wild Wild West because of all the stuff that's being thrown at the players. On the end where you want to participate in, and it's also the Wild Wild West because you sit around and you have these conversations of, hey, something we could do is we could do a trading card set. We could make up a Virginia Tech football trading card set. Yeah. And then the news comes out that I think my wife sent this to me literally this morning. Hang on, I'll find it in my text.
Trading card sets?
Penn State football. We are excited to be selected by Topps plus Fanatics for their first ever NIL trading card program, which will feature player cards of Penn State current and former student athletes, which is kind of cool. More details coming this fall. So I can sit around and have conversations with Virginia Tech NIL people about that maybe doing something like a trading card set, and then here comes Topps. So it's kind of hard to figure out what to do on the end when you want to participate in it also.
Yeah, Virginia Tech announced yesterday a partnership selling jerseys and
jerseys, which is a term I've never heard of.
Yeah, right. It's a shirt jersey. So like I bought a Mackenzie Lauder shirt jersey. It's got her name and number on the back, but it's a T-shirt.
Yeah.
So that's what that is. And from what I understand, that was very successful. They tried it out with certain softball players during regionals and super regionals. My understanding is it was very successful. Mark Cuban runs that group, and I don't think Mark Cuban's making any money off of it. I think it's just something that's important to him. Yeah. From what I understand is like pretty much all that except for production costs is going to the players. Well, Tech is partnered with that group, and I apologize, I don't remember their name, but the announcement's on HokieSports.com.
Right.
So you'll be able to buy for Tech athletes this year. If you want to buy
shirts that are jerseys with, like, if you are a big
Holyfield jersey, it's gonna be a white or maroon
and this is for pretty much
with a VT on the front with a Dax Holyfield and 4 on the back.
This is for pretty much all sports.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
And the name of the company is Campus Inc.
Campus
there
Inc.
You go.
That's it.
Okay. Yeah.
So, I mean, wasn't there an announcement a few months ago that Fanatics was going to offer
jerseys?
You
can get personalized football jerseys now.
You should be able to go right to the Fanatics link on TSL.
On Tech Sideline.
And we can also
they already
make a
launched
money
it
off
finally?
that. Have they?
I have no idea. You can do some research. Yeah,
we expect they'll be out by football season.
Yeah.
But I think that was narrow. I think that was maybe football and basketball. The Fanatics thing was.
Yeah, but now you can physically get a college player's name on the back of your jersey.
Yeah.
Instead of the generic number 25.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, what they were doing 1 and 25.
1 and 25, or if they would do the year. Like a 21. So again, we're going to partner with Commonwealth NIL, and they've got some interesting concepts. There is going to be certain types of merch available. So it is a huge, and you are correct, still evolving story. It's still so early in the process here. What else have we got we can cover?
Go ahead. I got a list of stuff.
Go for it.
Well, one of the things, and we were talking about this, I think, before we went on the podcast, football season feels like it's forever ago. And you said, we were talking about the bookends. The North Carolina game
was awesome.
At the time, that was huge.
Yeah.
You remember the video that the ACC network tweeted out of Enter Sandman? This is Friday night, like the first big college football game of the year. It's Virginia Tech
post-COVID,
North Carolina post-COVID, and people are in the replies like, "Oh my God, I can't believe like there are people not wearing masks. Like, why are they so close to each other?"
That video had millions of views, but it was mostly because of
it was like everybody was like, "Oh my God, like I can't believe all this COVID stuff." Like. And Virginia Tech beat a top 10 at the time North Carolina team. Yeah. Like, that was nuts.
It seems like ages ago.
And then the slog through the football season. And how about the UVA game, man?
Yeah.
So the book ends.
Like-
right.
like-
And everything in the middle was bad.
And we're not going to talk about the bowl
So
game.
let me jump in here. Somebody on Twitter, and I'm sorry I didn't write down the username, said one of the big stories of Tech athletics this year was J.C. Price
I was gonna say
forcing
JC.
Bronco Mendenhall to quit coaching.
I mean, the J.C. Price smoking a cigar.
Iconic image. Yes.
Smoking a cigar after beating UVA as the interim head coach. That's the only game he won as interim head coach. It's the only one that mattered.
Right. That's true.
It's just so funny because that feels like it was forever ago.
Football season can offer a whole range of emotions. So you go into the season thinking, oh man, we might have to fire a football coach at the end of the year, and then you beat North Carolina, and you're like, God, if we beat West Virginia, that means game day is probably coming to Blacksburg for the Notre Dame game, right? So we literally go from firing a coach to, here comes game day
for Notre Dame.
and then you lose 2 or 3 in a row, and you're like, fire the coach. Then he gets fired. Then you get a new coach.
Real quick, in 30 seconds, can we name every single Virginia Tech football game that was played this season?
This past season?
Yeah.
I cannot.
That's my point.
I'm just terrible. I know they whacked
feels
Duke.
like forever
they
ago.
beat Duke like 45.
They
to
did
10.
beat Duke.
I know they lost on a last-second pass against Syracuse.
Okay.
They couldn't punch it in inside the 10. I can't name them in order. They
West
couldn't punch
West
it
Virginia.
inside the 10 against
Pitt,
West Virginia.
Notre Dame, West Virginia,
What happened to the
Miami,
Syracuse,
Georgia Tech, Syracuse,
Duke.
Virginia.
We're missing this tiny non-conference game.
Yeah.
Did they play
Who
Liberty
was it?
this year?
No.
No, because Malik
Yeah, I
Willis
see. I
would
just
have
played them
been
this year. Yeah.
That's the thing. I don't remember who the not like. Who
don't
did
either.
Tech play in the non-conference?
I thought it was just me because I'm 57
I remember who they
years
played
old.
in non-conference 20 years ago, but I don't
Nick,
remember.
do you
this past
remember
year.
who Tech? No.
All right, so
That's cool.
before we look that up,
Again, yeah.
I did want to say that another thing about that North Carolina game was, remember they were ranked 10th in the country,
Sam Howell.
and I think people thought Sam Howell was going to be a first-round pick, maybe the best quarterback in the NFL draft. He wound up being a 5th-round pick,
Right.
Okay.
And UNC went 6-6,
Right. And Mac Brown's program was exposed to be a fraud.
Right.
So it's funny, like Mac Brown, his program's up and coming. So much has changed for both programs since that game.
Yeah.
Now everybody's like, when is Mac Brown going to retire?
Yeah.
He's signing all these highly touted recruits, but he can't develop them, and they have a toughness problem in their program.
Okay. Middle Tennessee
That's right.
and Richmond.
Richmond. Yeah.
we
we
remember that.
barely beat them.
It was 21-10.
Yeah, okay.
It was bad.
Yeah, that was
And that was the week
uninspired.
before the Notre Dame game.
And Middle Tennessee was the one James Mitchell tore his knee out on a tight end around.
Yeah.
So was that the second game of the year?
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
So like, again, that just goes to show you, like, of course you're going to remember North Carolina. You remember West Virginia. But, like, everything between then
That Richmond game was brutal.
and, like, between then and the Miami game, which was J.C. Price's first game, everything else is kind of just, like...
See, remember, like, we thought we were, oh, man, I think we're pretty good. We beat UNC, and then didn't look that great against Middle Tennessee, but you're like, oh, you know what? We were on an emotional high last week, so we dropped off a little this week. We'll be fine. Terrible against Richmond, and you're like, maybe North Carolina just stinks. And as it turned out, yeah, that was pretty much it.
Yeah. I mean, like, Justin Fuente's last game was
The Duke,
senior day against Duke. And they
they whacked Duke.
yeah.
48-17.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and then of course I know you were there, right? In Charlottesville for the UVA game?
Yes.
Were you? No, you weren't. Were you watching from Blacksburg?
Oh, yeah.
Like seeing the whole the whole Robert Anai UVA thrown to an offensive lineman. Like you know, just Virginia Tech that bad of a team won that game.
Yeah. And another player I remember from that game is Braxton Burmeister ripping off that 70-plus yard run. And,
Early in
and,
the
and
game.
as fast as he was billed to be, he couldn't finish it. He couldn't score on it.
Yeah.
You know? And he's since transferred out to
San Diego State.
San Diego
San Diego State. Wow.
It's hometown school.
Yeah, it's just nuts. Like the beginning of basketball season was right around that time, and you know some of my favorite moments I think it's worth mentioning, like women's basketball, like the ACC tournament game against North Carolina.
Quarterfinal game.
Oh God,
Went to overtime.
hands down, regardless of sport, one of the best games in Virginia
Yeah,
Tech
it was
an
athletic
excellent game,
history.
yeah.
Like Georgia Amore running layup at the end. I mean, there were just some really, really good games.
And I'm at the Arby's drive-through listening to Evan Hughes on the
There you
radio
go.
call that game. So more than one person suggested a big story in Tech athletics this year is the emergence of Evan Hughes as a play-by-play force. Yeah.
Indeed.
You could convince me that he had emerged in college, but his Jim Nance award might say
Yeah,
that. But
Yeah, he was a highly touted draft prospect. We'll
There
say.
you go.
Yeah.
So I will admit, and I hope
TSL zone.
Evan doesn't get mad at me for saying this, but you saw the video of him calling, was it DeMartini's home run
yes,
in a regional game?
I don't remember.
Not a super regional.
That was
Yeah.
It was DeMartini's 3-run home run in one of the regional games.
Oh, and Chef actually tweeted. He's like, Evan's a stud.
Yeah. So I'm suddenly blanking on the name of the guy who took the video.
Oh, George
George. I was thinking Harry. and I'm like, it's not
Flagland, I
Harry.
believe.
Yeah.
He works for Learfield.
So when I saw that video, I thought, that looks fake. It looks like Evan's playing it up for the camera. And we got it from a very good source this past weekend. No, he didn't know George was there. Didn't know he was filming it.
Yeah.
That's
I mean, that
legit
doesn't-
how Evan does it. Because he was sitting there and he goes, it's a 2-2 count, 2 outs. And he's doing this and he's being very dynamic. And I'm like, are guys on the radio ordinarily that dynamic calling a game?
That's Evan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
A lot of good sports.
what else you got, David?
Um,
Who were the names of the 2 athletes that won national championships in indoor track?
Rachel Baxter and Lindsey Butler, I believe.
Very good. I think you're right.
Yeah.
And what events were they in?
One was the high jump, and one was like 100 meters, maybe. It shows you how much I follow indoor track and field.
It's hard to keep 20 sports in your head.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when we can barely piece together the football.
Yeah, we don't
football
remember who we played in
schedule.
football season.
Yeah, but like 2 indoor national championships for track and field. Both indoor track and field programs won the ACC.
Wow.
Like,
That's another one that I kind of glossed over. That's a big deal.
yeah. I mean, when you think about the smaller sports, like Nick mentioned, Emily Mahar, she went and competed at at Augusta in an amateur tournament. Like, that's sick. Virginia Tech men's tennis had a doubles team go to the NCAA tournament that was ranked all year. Like, there's so many like little tiny, really good stories everywhere.
Probably more than we could possibly cover in a single podcast.
Yeah. Well, I think we've covered a good chunk of it, and like, think of some of the one we have to mention. Men's basketball beat Louisville.
Haha.
Yes.
Easily. I might add.
Sometimes that's how those things happen.
Justin Mutt's triple-double.
Justin Mutt's triple-double against Syracuse.
Yeah.
Like, the eight Virginia Tech men's and women's basketball having the 2 ACC Scholar Athletes of the Year in Liz Kitley and
Mutts.
Justin Mutts.
Yeah.
Justin Mutts returning. Liz Kitley, ACC Player of the Year.
Yeah. I mean, when there are 15 teams in a conference and one of your players is Player of the Year, that's a huge deal.
Yeah.
And I actually didn't think that would happen. I thought they would give it. I don't know who else were candidates. Who else was there?
Emily Angsler from Louisville and Elisa Cunane from NC State.
Tell you what, that point guard for Notre Dame might have a Player of the Year award in her future.
Oh, I forgot her name.
Unfortunately. Here's an interesting comment from Twitter. Though maybe not the story of the year, and this is Michael Taylor, any 2022 highlights must include how perfect the weekend of April 16th was this year.
Yeah.
Spring game, Run for Remembrance was good with BT football cheering on runners in the stadium and finish line. I didn't know that. Add in softball and baseball games, perfect weekend.
Yeah, it took 2 out of 3 from Miami and 2 out of 3 from UVA that weekend. UVA in softball, Miami in baseball.
Yep.
Yeah, you're right. And the weather was great. And then it wasn't on Monday, but that's okay. Everybody had gone home.
Yeah.
Except for
So,
those of us who live in Blacksburg.
Lindsey Butler was 800 meters,
800
and
meters,
Rachel. No, this person says Lindsey Butler and Rachel Butler. So
Rachel is Rachel Baxter.
Rachel Baxter pole vault.
Yeah. Pole vault. Okay. High jump pole vault. Not the same thing. I apologize. Checking the YouTube chat. Paul Patera. Good point. The fact that there are so many candidates for Story of the Year illustrates the great trajectory that the athletic program is on.
So back to Chris's point, I've had a blast watching a lot of Tech athletics this year. And
I've had a blast covering it. Thank you for hiring me.
I guess the timing was good. But it is strange to have baseball going so far that, as we've talked about, ACC Football Media Day is
In a month.
In a month, it's July 20th. It's 5 weeks from now.
I guess we need to apply for credentials, don't we?
We do. That email came out the other day. Yeah. So I'm going to ask you, and let's not talk it to death because it turns out we've gone almost an hour and a half. And I don't know. I think it's pretty clear cut. I think the biggest story of the year is the football coaching bit. Yeah. And I think the biggest accomplishment of the year is winning the men's ACC tournament. Agreed?
No,
go for it.
Football is, I don't know. To me, it's like it's a story that dates back to the last academic year. You know, so like I said, I knew Justin Fuente was getting fired 2 weeks before he got fired. So I guess it's a story that Brent Pry got hired. Don't get me wrong, it's a huge story. But like I said, we've hired and fired football coaches before. We've never won an ACC tournament in men's basketball before.
I will agree with that.
I will say this. I mean, I want to be great at football. Like, if the sports gods had come to me and said, you know what, I'll give you an ACC men's basketball title this year, but you have to keep Justin Fuente as your football coach for one more year, I would have said yes.
Absolutely.
So to me, that makes basketball the bigger story if we consider that more important.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right?
Well, I also think in 20 years, looking back on it, you're not going to remember the exact details of the whole Brent Pry, Justin Fuente thing. Right. You're probably going to explain to whoever you're chatting with at that moment that, yeah, you know, something, it probably should have happened during COVID, and then it didn't, and then it got dragged out, and then it was like 3 games left in the year. You will remember where you were watching that men's basketball game.
Right, no doubt. And so I'm like, no, if Brent Pry goes on and like wins the national title or something like that at Virginia Tech, then maybe we look back and the storyline changes to a certain extent. Maybe we look back and
but
say,
that story,
that
like bigger. NIL, is just starting to be written.
Right. Like it's not been completed. Like I enjoyed covering the whole coaching search thing. And
it was exhausting.
It was exhausting, but I think we did it. I think we did a good job with it. We made a lot of money off of it.
Hopefully, this is not a yearly occurrence because I don't know that was exhausting.
But I don't know. I just even when you hire a new coach, it's like some people are happy about it, some people aren't.
Yeah.
But
when you win an ACC championship, everybody's happy.
And I just when I was in Champs the night Tech won the ACC tournament, and I saw reactions, and I saw a couch sitting on the middle of Main Street. Yeah, you know, and that was when the students weren't even in town. Yeah. It was just now people weren't rioting in the streets when Brent Pry got hired, right?
That's a good point.
So to me, it's basketball, and I would have taken another year of Justin Fuente for a guaranteed men's basketball title.
I'm so surprised.
Unfortunately, I'd have to, but
I'm so surprised you guys didn't come up. I know you said you wanted to come up. I'm surprised
those last second flight prices.
Yeah, I tell you what, that is my of all, because I got to cover so many games. The amount of press boxes I've sat in this year, and being able to sit courtside. And what was cooler was, obviously, Liam Smet was taking photos for us, and he's a Tech grad. And behind me and next to me, Chris Hirons was sitting next to me. He's a current Tech student. To my right, 2 students from the Collegiate Times, Tech students. In the row behind me, our own Jake Lyman with Kevin DiDomenico, Tech students. Tyler Katz, more, the list of Tech students there covering that game goes on and on and on.
It was the Bill Roth All-Star team.
And we got to cover Virginia Tech win the ACC against Coach K, no less.
Oh, yeah.
We got to cover
And
Virginia
before
Tech
that,
win the
UNC,
ACC. Yeah.
just-
I will forever remember my favorite videos. I was taking the video of kind of just following Mike Young, and Mike Young walks over to the Marching Virginians, or the pep band, I guess, and asks the band director to get an encore of Tech Triumph.
Tech Triumph, yeah.
Yeah.
And
sorry.
like that, I will forever remember that.
I'm divided. Like, part of me wishes I had gone up to see it in person, but like, if somebody else had taken all the videos that I took from like champs and downtown and everything like that, and I'd seen them, I would have also been like, man, I wish I'd been celebrating with all those people in Blacksburg too at the same time. It's like my senior year, Tech won the ACC in football, 2004. I didn't go to the Tech Miami game that year, but Blacksburg was insane that day.
Yeah.
So I would have loved to have seen that in person, but at the same time, I would have missed out on an amazing weekend in Blacksburg.
Yeah.
With everybody. So there's
Too bad it
two
was spring
sides
break,
to it.
man.
Yeah.
And I spent the weekend at a buddy's lake house watching all 3 or 4 of those games, and got to spend time with my college friends. And you're right, I'll remember that.
Yeah.
So you have convinced me, and so here it is. That's the story of the year: Virginia Tech men's basketball winning the ACC championship. So that wraps it up for episode 241 of the Tech Sideline Podcast. Thanks everybody for watching and listening, and we'll see you next time.